Hey guys, my name is Matt Brennan. I'm a pastor, a teacher, and an amateur lumberjack. Okay, not really about that last one. A while back, a buddy of mine asked me to help him cut down some fallen trees into firewood. He had several downed trees in his yard and needed them cleared out. I got excited because we're always talking about finding opportunities to serve your neighbors, about what it means to be Christ to those around you, and I think this is my shot. This is an open door. I'm fairly decent with a chainsaw, and so I oiled and gassed up my chainsaw and made sure I can get it started and running, and went over to my friend's house to offer my assistance. I went to my friend's house and said, "Hey, I've got a chainsaw. I can take care of these logs in a matter of minutes." He was stoked for the help. We started cutting, and it took me about 3 minutes to get through that first log. It shouldn't have. My chainsaw blade, my chainsaw chain was dull. And at that point, I'm like, hey buddy, I can't actually help. I'm gonna burn through this tree before I actually cut through it. See, with a dull blade, I was no good to him at all. The next day, I knew I needed to sharpen my chain if I want my chainsaw to be of any real use. So I went to my friend John. He's got every tool in the book. I went to his house and asked him, "Hey John, can I borrow your chainsaw sharpener?" And he said, "If you bring it over, I'll sharpen it for you." That's actually what I wanted because I'm not sure how to sharpen a chainsaw chain. And so he began to work on it, and we just stood on his front porch in his front yard for a while, and we sharpened that chainsaw, got it ready, and I got it prepared. I came back and I'm ready to chop down my neighbor's tree. But it brought to mind a verse from Ecclesiastes, another little book written by King Solomon. It comes from chapter 10, verse 10. "If the axe is dull and its blade unsharpened, then more strength is needed for success." In other words, if you have an axe that's not sharp, it's going to take you a lot longer to get through that tree. What is this verse doing in the Bible? Is God simply dispensing wood cutting advice? Is this just a life verse for lumberjacks to memorize? I think it's more than that. This verse is a metaphor about success in life, and I want you to know God wants you to be successful. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not a proponent of the prosperity gospel, but God has put so much wisdom in this book to help you and I be successful. So if this is a metaphor, my first question for you is this: what tools has God given you? What is your axe or your chainsaw? What tools has God put in your hands, not just for your own benefit, but to help others? See, God has given you gifts, talents, and abilities to build up others and make his name great. 1 Corinthians chapters 12 and 14 say that your gifts are given for the common good to build up the church. You see, I don't know what your gifts are. I don't know what your talents are. I don't know what experiences you've had or what your education is. But what I do know is this: if the axe is dull, it will drain your strength. You see, God has given you talents, spiritual gifts, and abilities. He's given you opportunities to use them to serve others. But you have a responsibility to hone and sharpen and practice those gifts to use them for the kingdom. So, what gifts has he given you? Second, what is your tree? What has God given you these tools to accomplish? What has he set before you that he needs to use your gifts for? And finally, what areas of your life need sharpening? Maybe God has given you the task of being a good husband or a good wife. Maybe God has given you the task of being a good parent. Here's a hint. If God has made you a husband, a wife, or a parent, he wants you to be a good one. But in order to do that, we have to sharpen our skills. God wants all of us to be better human beings, to have more patience, to have more compassion, to have more love. God wants you to improve your skills at your job. Colossians chapter 3, verse 17 says, "Whatever you do," and I love that idea, whatever you do it with all of your heart, as if you were working for God, not for men. So what opportunities has God put before you? What are the tools he has put in your hands to accomplish those goals? And what are some areas of your life that need sharpening so that you can be successful for the Lord? See, you have an obligation to use those gifts and to sharpen them. I think back to the parable of the talents. Right before Jesus rose from the grave and ascended into heaven, he told a story in Matthew chapter 25 about a master who was going away for a long time. And he gave each of his servants a certain amount of talents, a certain amount of gold. To one servant, he gave 10 talents. To another, he gave 5. To another one, he gave 1. When the master returned from his long journey, he came to the servant to whom he had given 10 talents and said, "What have you done with the gifts that I have given you?" And the servant responded, Master, you gave me 10 talents. Look, I have earned 10 more. I have used my gifts. I have increased them, and it was all for you, Master. And the master responded, well done, good and faithful servant. And then he went to the guy who had 5 talents and said, so what have you done with the talents that I have given you? And the servant responded, Master, you gave me 5 talents. Look, I've earned 5 more. And once again, the master responds, well done, good and faithful servant. Finally, the master came to the last servant and said, what have you done with the talents that I've given you? And the man responded, Master, I knew that you are a hard man, reaping where you have not sown. Look, I took my talent and I buried it, and here is what was yours. And the master responded, wait. You knew that I gave you this talent. You knew that I had an expectation of you, and you didn't increase it. You didn't sharpen it. You didn't do anything with what I gave you. You wicked and evil servant. Man, that's harsh. You see, when God gives us talents, he gives us the tools. When he gives us our skills, there's an expectation for you and I to use those talents, tools, and skills to glorify God, and that requires sharpening. So what are your tools? What are your talents? What are the opportunities that God is calling you to? And where do you need sharpening in your life? Because each and every one of us is building up God's kingdom. So take some time today and answer those questions for yourself. Use whatever God has given you for his glory. We love you guys. We will see you tomorrow. Now that's a sharp axe.